The observation deck of the Galactic Concordance Station hummed with its usual administrative efficiency. Liana sat at her monitoring console, reviewing environmental compliance reports from the human settlement on Kepler 442b, when the priority alert flashed across her screen. Formal safety violation. Species. Human. Location. Gymnasium sector. 7. She blinked at the designation. Humans had been part of the concordance for only 3 standard cycles, and they'd already accumulated more safety violations than the Vrin had in 2 centuries. Liana pulled up the incident report, her cranial ridge furrowing as she read. The complaint had been filed by a Thessian maintenance crew working near the high-gravity training facility. According to their testimony, they had witnessed a human male engaging in reckless locomotion in a 5 times standard gravity environment without proper exoskeletal support or gravitational compensation equipment. Liana's secondary heart skipped. 5 times standard gravity would crush most concordant species into paste. Even the robust Krathi required full mechanical assistance at anything above 2.5 G. She immediately flagged the report for medical emergency response and rushed toward Gymnasium Sector 7. When she arrived, she found James Chen still alive, and worse, still jogging. The human moved in long, rhythmic strides around the perimeter of the gravity chamber, sweat glistening on his brown skin. The environmental readout confirmed what the Thessians had reported. 5.2 times concordance standard gravity, equivalent to approximately 49 meters per second squared. James wore nothing but thin fabric coverings and simple footwear with cushioned soles. "Stop!" Liana's translator implant projected her alarm as she hammered on the observation window. "You're experiencing lethal gravitational stress." James looked up, smiled, and waved. He tapped a control on his wrist device, and the gravity chamber's intercom crackled to life. "Hey, Liana, just finishing my morning run. Be out in 5. 5 what? Minutes. You'll be dead in 5 minutes. 5 laps, James corrected, continuing his steady pace. His breathing was elevated but controlled, measured in a pattern that suggested deliberate respiratory efficiency. "This is actually lighter than what I'm used to. Earth's gravity is only about 9.8 meters per second squared, but I usually train at 6 times Earth normal." Liana's tertiary lung fluttered in panic. She pulled up the xenophysiology database on her tablet, searching desperately for an explanation. Human biology couldn't possibly withstand this. Their skeletal structure was calcium-based, relatively fragile. Their musculature was dense but not exceptionally so compared to other concordant species. Yet the biomonitors tracking James showed elevated but stable vital signs. His heart rate was 168 beats per minute, high, but nowhere near critical failure. His oxygen saturation remained above 94%. Most impossibly, his bone density scans showed no microfractures, no structural collapse. "How?" Liana whispered. James completed his final lap and gradually decreased the gravity to standard levels. He emerged from the chamber, toweling sweat from his face. Despite having just endured what should have been lethal conditions, he appeared merely tired, the kind of fatigue from normal exertion. "Human musculoskeletal adaptation," James explained, stretching his arms above his head. "Our species evolved under relatively high gravity compared to most concordance worlds. Our bones are dense, our muscles attached to our skeleton at mechanical angles, optimized for leverage, and our cardiovascular system can handle significant pressure differentials. But 5 times standard is about half of what trained astronauts experience during historical rocket launches," James continued. "Humans have been deliberately subjecting themselves to high G-forces for centuries. Our bodies are built to handle it, at least for short periods." Liana consulted her tablet again, this time accessing human historical records. Images appeared of primitive chemical rockets, of pilots in compression suits, of athletes lifting objects many times their body mass. One file showed humans called Olympic weightlifters, hoisting 263 kilograms above their heads, under Earth's already high gravity. Your entire species is insane, Liana concluded. Or highly adaptable, James countered with a grin. Look, I know it seems extreme by concordant standards, but humans need this kind of training. We lose bone density and muscle mass quickly in low-G environments. Without regular high-gravity exercise, we'd become fragile, more prone to injury. The Thessian crew filed a formal safety complaint. James's expression sobered. I was following all posted protocols. The chamber is rated for up to 8 times standard. I didn't violate any regulations. Liana scrolled through the relevant documentation. He was technically correct. The facility specifications allowed for his activity. The problem was that those specifications had been written with the assumption that no sentient being would actually use the equipment at those extremes without mechanical assistance. The Council will want to review human safety standards, Liana said. This incident will raise questions about your species' integration into Concordance workspace protocols. Tell them this, James said, his tone turning serious. Human history is defined by adaptation to hostile environments. We evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme temperature variations, predators that outweighed us 10 to 1, and diseases that killed millions before we developed resistance. We didn't survive because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we could endure what would kill other species and adapt to conditions that seemed impossible. He picked up his water container, took a long drink, then continued. If the Concordance wants humanity as part of its alliance, you need to understand this fundamental truth about us. What you call reckless, we call Tuesday. Liana watched him leave the gymnasium, still processing what she'd witnessed. She would file her report, and the Council would debate, and ultimately they would probably create a new classification in their safety protocols. Human normal activities. As she walked back to her office, Liana couldn't shake a troubling thought. If humans considered 5 times gravity to be routine exercise, what would they consider an actual challenge? And perhaps more worryingly, what kind of adversaries had humans evolved to face that required such extreme physical capabilities? She made a note to request a full review of Earth's ecological history. Something told her the Concordance had vastly underestimated their newest members. The priority alert on her console blinked again. Another human had been spotted in the cryogenic training facility, swimming in near-freezing water. Liana sighed and reached for her incident report template. It was going to be a long cycle.